Hi, welcome to the Secular Scriptures. I'm Gail. You are getting an informal video rant tonight with no makeup, no hair. You're getting my I just chased a chicken for 5 minutes to try to get her in face. And I am really annoyed. I'm actually kind of, I've calmed down a little bit. Chasing a chicken helped. Watch Britt Hartley's video that's a reaction to Matt Dillahunty's video about how spirituality is nonsense. And this is not so much about either one of these people on an individual level. It's more my responses to the responses and what that says about my own state of mind. So I'm going to use them as the framework for this video, but I want to make it clear that I'm not picking on either one of them. I actually really respect both of them. I mostly agree with Britt in terms of like language usage. Spirituality is a very broad term. It is not necessarily associated with religion. In fact, it's often disassociated from religion very deliberately. I don't really see a problem with the use of it. Where we have a problem is in the English language. We don't have adequate terms for the things that we are trying to express that are broad terms that encompass a lot of different things that have to do with non-belief. We have a lot of terms that cover broad things that have to do with belief, but we don't even really have adequate words for non-belief. We have specific words like skeptic, non-believer. That's the most neutral term, and it's a negative term. Non is automatically negative. Atheist is automatically negative. It means without. We just don't have good words for lack of belief. That's a problem. Our entire language is geared towards belief, which means that our entire system of thinking is geared towards belief. And this can become very problematic when people are trying to express ideas that are not associated with religion. Matt's basic point is that by his definition of spirituality, he is using the commas in between the words to encompass all of those, that his definition must encompass all of those. And Britt's, the way that she's using the commas is to say and or, where a person can be selective as to what they want to pull from that definition. So Matt's definition is very hardcore fundamentalist, and Britt's definition is very broad and flexible. And this is largely coming in from different ways of thinking of the world. A lot of it has to do with gender, quite frankly, where women tend to have a much more flexible definition of things, whereas men want more hard, concrete, defined, logical, narrow definitions of things. And that's not necessary for many women. It's irrelevant, okay? It just does not play a part in the conversation. The one thing that really got to me was the fundamentalist attitude that Matt brought to the discussion. He went hardcore logical, like, spirituality has to be defined and testable, or otherwise it's bullshit, right? Which is basically what he was saying. And while I understand that on like a scientific level, that's not what spirituality is. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not. Like, no, you just, here's him, and there's the point. Like, he just completely missed it, right? Playing a game of semantics is not going to help the conversation. So the thing is that when you go all Jordan Peterson on things, you get stalled. You're going to miss the point. You're going to hurt people's feelings. You're going to lose yourself in the definitions, right? So if we had a better word, that would be great, but we don't. So I agree with Britt there. For right now, there is not a better word for spirituality in the secular world. If you know of one, put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Because it is a very broad term, right? And Matt wants it to be very, very narrow, and he wants it to be testable. And the thing is like when you're talking about people's feelings, it's not just feelings, but when you're talking about people's feelings, that is really hard to test, because a lot of times what people say they're feeling isn't even what they're feeling. It's subjective, right? It's so much fun. So the next thing that got to me in this whole thing was Matt's level of fundamentalism, where he was so adamant that he was right in this. And he was very dismissive of Britt. One thing that I really don't like about real-time reaction videos is that you're not hearing the person out and you're not thinking about your responses beforehand. And I honestly think, because he is a very, sensible person, If he had watched her video all the way through and then did his response video, we would have seen a very different response than what we saw. And for full disclosure, I did not watch the whole thing. I was losing my temper. I turned it off. Okay, like, you know, my mental health matters. I don't do well with reaction videos. I really don't. Why am I doing a reaction video to a video? Anyway. Hi! But the level of atheistic fundamentalism that was happening here is something that really, really bothered me. I was actually having a trauma response to this. And the reason is that my abusive ex-boyfriend was very much like this. I'm not going to get into details on here. And he was a staunch atheist, and I was a pagan at the time, and he spiritually abused me just like he abused me in all other ways. And it was this same lines of, you need to give a logical, defined response. You need to justify this. And you need to justify it in a way that I will accept it. It must be acceptable to me. Because what you feel and what you think and your experience doesn't matter. It must make sense in my mind for it to be okay for you. And that is one kind of mindfuck. And this whole back and forth between Matt and Britt just really got to me. And that's not either of their faults. That was my own history playing into this. Matt's responses to Britt with like this demanding of defined spirituality is the same kind of thing that goes on in high control religious groups, where you have to justify your beliefs if they differ from the church, and then you're still going to be wrong. Again, not attacking Matt, but just this line of conversation between these two. We're just chugging right down on this. I can see where this train is going and the bridge is out, right? And I just really had a hard time with it. I lost my shit there, right? And I deleted most of my comment on Matt's video. I got one silly response about fairies, and I kind of snapped at the person who did that, and they were probably just being silly. I'm out of the conversation because I don't need to be mean to anybody. Like, I'm not thinking with a clear head on this. And I know that. Like, I know that I'm coming at this from a trauma response because of growing up in a cult and because of being with this fundamentalist atheist person who was highly abusive. And it was just that whole tone just really got to me. One of the big issues that's happening in this conversation, maybe they addressed it later, I did not stick around because it wasn't to that part in Britt's video, is that women tend to use the word spirituality a lot more than men, especially in atheist and agnostic spaces. And I think a lot of atheist men discount that. They don't see it as important. They see it as like hanging on to religious aspects and stuff. But the thing is that ritual and the inner world connectedness, that type of thing, is very much part of being a woman, regardless of culture. I'm not going to sit here and explain femininity to men who do not understand femininity. Here's the issue, is that when you have a fundamentalist thinker and when you have a flexible thinker, they aren't thinking the same way. The brains are not going to meet. When you have a person who identifies as spiritual, whether they happen to be religious or not, they are not going to go with something that is a formalized structure. Logic is a formalized structure. That person is not going to go for logic. And to browbeat them with logic, like, you're doing the thing the church does. Like you just did the thing the church does. And I'm just not down with it. I'm really having a hard time with it. As I said to one of my friends, I would rather eat my own eyeball than go back to fundamentalism. So I will not be eating my eyeball tonight. And I will not be going back to fundamentalism, whether that's within non-belief or whether that's within belief. I don't see myself going back to being a believer, but I didn't see myself becoming a non-believer either. This was just something that happened. The thing that I've had the hardest time with in this space is this end of fundamental atheists, where everything must be proven, everything must be factual, everything must be logical. And that's just not how the world works. That's not how people work. People have experiences. People have inner lives. And to discount that is foolishness. I mean, and it really is. It's foolishness. So, anyway, I hope everybody has a great night.